welcome back to the Loopy Homestead. A few weeks ago in one of our previous videos, I alluded to something that we would be doing today, and that is a new home for yet another creature. Back in, we'll say, probably December, my husband's work got a new buddy, a little fluffy bunny that hops, and we felt bad because he came out of nowhere. Clearly he was somebody's pet who either got out or that they decided, unfortunately, that they didn't want. Either way, he was hopping around a stone yard amongst bricks and forklifts, and we felt terrible for him. So after a bit of deliberation and some catching, we finally caught him, and he has now been brought to the homestead. His name is Momo. He's a little gray bunny. And he's had some okay digs. We got him a little hutch and a small fence for him to be in, but it's not a lot of space to move around, and he has proven to us he likes to move. So today's plan is to go ahead and build him basically a big playpen that his hutch will go in right behind me on the empty space of the barn. We are getting ready to cut our lumber here. I've got some 10-footers that we're going to cut to 57 inches. I have some 2x4s that we're going to cut down to 4 feet. And that's going to give us panels that are 4 feet high by 5 feet wide, taking into account the other 2x4s that we're going to put on the end. Once we're done with that, we'll screw them together in a rectangular frame, and then we'll move on to the hardware cloth portion of them. I have my 2x4s all cut here, so now at this point, all I'm ready to do is screw them together into a rectangular frame. And for that, I'm going to get my dad's help again. Normally, for our planter boxes and stuff, my ends are so short I can sit down and do this. But right now, they're just too long and tippy for me to be able to do it on my own. So this is one of our panels. This is how the rest will be. So in a couple of seconds, you'll see us move on to the hardware cloth part. All of our frames are built, and we are on to the next step. That is with our hardware cloth. I've got hardware cloth here that is 4 foot by 5 foot, and it's got 1/4 inch spaces. It's 23 gauge. It'll fit perfectly. We just gotta staple it to one end here, roll it out and staple as we go. One extra bit that we like to do, but I won't do that until last, is we like to take some screws with washers and do those at the corners to just extra reinforce them. But other than that, the panels will be done, and we'll be able to start hooking them up together. All right, that's our first panel done. We're going to do this 6 more times. 6 more times. And one of these is smaller because it will make the door. Day 2 of bunny pen build. We got all of our hardware cloth on yesterday. And today we have done the washers and screws like I mentioned we would do. What I've got here, and these ones are 1/8 of an inch by 1 inch. We just take one of these with a nice small screw, doesn't have to be anything big. Pop the screw through the middle like a T, screw it right down. We generally choose to do all 4 corners and then kind of evenly spaced along the wire. The bigger point of doing the washers and the screws is, even though the staples are enough to hold the hardware cloth on, we just prefer to predator proof if we can. You know, there isn't as many things here that are trying to get into our chickens, or in this instance that will try to get into our rabbit. But in case anything gets interested in that and they do happen to pull up on this wire, if the staples either break the wire or come loose, these are just an extra means to make sure the wire stays in place. I'll show you here. This is our door. But we've done that right here. Anywhere that our hardware cloth meets, we've done that. And then, like I said, along in intervals, just to make sure, again, in a space like this, something much larger than, I don't know, we'll say a raccoon, isn't getting in this. And if a raccoon really wants to deal with the sides of this, I guess it can. But for the most part, we're dealing with bigger things that might be interested. If a coyote decided he wanted to get a tasty snack, this is not going to be something he's going to easily take apart. So our next order is to take our panels. Now we have two panels that are 4 feet by 5 feet and two panels that are 4 feet by 4 feet. In fact, actually, I have 4 panels that are 4 feet by 5 feet, 2 panels that are 4 feet by 4 feet. And we're going to start connecting those. We'll start with our back one to make a nice straight back wall. And then we will go from there for the sides and the front. And this door should fit just right between our 2 panels with just a little bit of wiggle room in between. So we're going to get on screwing those back panels together first. And then the rest of it is assembling it just like you might a Lego, but with screws instead. We're going to start by just going ahead and clamping these 2 pieces together so that they are even at the top, at the bottom, and along the sides here. And now at this point, since these are easily together, we can pick them up so I can screw them together. Opted to put 4 screws in this. 2 come from one direction, 2 come from the other. That way I can just make sure that my 2 pieces here stay sandwiched all the time. With our walls built, we are doing some checking of the level. We want to make sure that everything is sitting nicely on the ground so that Momo doesn't bury out, or I should say burrow out. So what we'll probably end up doing, because this is sitting pretty nice and flush on a grassy area, which we want to leave, we will probably scrape out some of the back to get it to level out. At the moment, we've got a pretty significant difference. Just say there. That's level. So we're looking at about a 4-inch difference of what needs to go down back. But really, most of that is just the stuff that is actually up against the barn from years of being pushed up against it. I think once we take most of that out, it's not going to be hard to level the rest of it. I'm going to go ahead and fit our hinges and our latch on our door here. We've just got some stainless, small hinges and a gate latch. Part of our reason for choosing this one is in case over time it sags a little bit, unlike those little kind of, push ones. This should be easy to latch no matter how much, it settles or whatnot. Also, because he's a bunny and he sometimes likes to kick at things, we don't want anything to kick at this door or pull at this door and rattle a different type of latch loose. Furthermore, my sister has psoriasis. And occasionally that means her hands it's hard to manipulate small things. And so I wanted to make sure, since she's technically Momo's owner, even though we do all get to enjoy him, that it was a latch that was easy for her to use. So that being said, I'm going to start with my hinges. These come with screws, but I prefer to use the star-headed screws like we've done with the washers. Over time, they just seem to hold up better in the wood than the little ones that come with these. Nothing's going to go to waste. I mean, we craft and stuff, and so those little screws are great for holding together small boxes or things of that nature. But when it comes to this bigger, heavier duty stuff, I would just rather use a construction screw that is better made for that. So hinges are what I'm going to do first. I'm going to go ahead and open my box here, and I am going to find my tiny head because these are much smaller than what we used to assemble it. They are the same screws that we used for the washers. But I'm just going to go ahead and get a couple gate pieces on here so that when we're ready to actually hang it on the run, kennel, playpen, whatever you might call it for a rabbit, that way they're easy for us to go ahead and put up. Also, I am paying attention to the fact that I am intending for this door to swing outward, not inward. And so I am making sure to put my hinges on accordingly. Now, basically what I've chosen to do with them is I am finding the approximate middle of my door, and then from the middle to the end, I'm coming in. So that way my hinges are pretty well centered to top and bottom ratio. If at some point I feel like it's not quite holding up the way I want to, we can always come back in and put a third hinge in the middle here. But honestly, for a little 2 foot by 4 foot door, I don't think that's going to be necessary. Now with my gate latch, these are button head bolts, or button head screws, I should say. I am going to do the same thing with these that I did with these guys, except my smaller screws will go right through my holes. So I will switch to a bigger screw for the latch. Now let's try the latch. Perfect. There we go. That's shut. So it's ready for Momo, except like I said, we're going to do some other fun little items inside of it. Whether or not he'll move in today, not 100% sure, but he'll be in here very soon. That's all for today, Looplings. Join us back next week to see the second half of Bun Bun Bungalow. Thanks for joining us back on the Loopy Homestead. If you'd like to stay in the loop, please subscribe to our videos. And if you'd like to help us find more Looplings like you, please like and share them. See you next time. That is... I think I have my blooper for this one now.
Oh, we did that on tape?
Yes, we did. We are classy.